Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wicked Good Sports Podcast for February 12th, 2025. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We got football news on the Saints and some more on the developing story of the Jets' exit with Aaron Rodgers. The relationship was messy. The exit was bound to be messy. We have some more details there. Then we have Chris joining us for a power play segment all about what's happening with the All-Star game, talking a little bit about the ratings decline for the NHL, and then the Bean Pot, which is of course the local Boston College's hockey tournament that happens here in Boston each and every year. And then we finish the show off with Ryan talking a little bit of NBA news, the trade fallout deadline, failed physicals, all that. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. New Orleans Saints finally have a head coach. We all knew that this was coming. We all knew that Kellen Moore was going to be the head coach of the Saints. It was a foregone conclusion. Anthony Weaver was the other man in contention. He stays with Miami. As a Dolphins fan, I'm very happy that Anthony Weaver stays with Miami because I think he's a great defensive coach and he would have been a good head coach probably for New Orleans Saints, but instead they go with Kellen Moore, who is, of course, a Super Bowl champion as the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles from Super Bowl 59. So, Kellen Moore, and you can read a little bit more about this in my latest column, my latest blog, whatever you want to call it, for Dolphins Talk. I'll link it in the description down below. But Kellen Moore took over the offense for the Eagles this year. In previous years, Nick Sirianni, initially when he went there, called the plays, handed over to Shane Steichen, but still developed the game plan. When Steichen became the head coach of the Colts, they promoted Ben Johnson. Nope, they promoted the quarterback coach to be the next offensive coordinator. He unfortunately wasn't that great. He ended up getting fired last year. And there were a lot of questions about whether Nick Sirianni would stick around as well and if he was going to become less involved with the offense. He hires Kellen Moore, obviously a very experienced offensive coordinator. He was over in Los Angeles the year before with the Chargers. Now he came over, and before that, of course, he was with the Cowboys, had Dak Prescott playing MVP levels. He comes over to Philadelphia. He revamps the offense. The offense is a really high point of the season for the Eagles. He has a more focus on running. Obviously, Saquon Barkley almost has 2,000 yards. The, pretty much run through the playoffs with really only the Rams giving them a difficult time. And even then, they didn't slow them down too much on offense. They make the Super Bowl. They blow out the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, big help from Vic Fangio and that defense, but that offense was also humming during the Super Bowl. And now Kellen Moore is rewarded with the Saints head coaching job, which, it's a tough spot to be just because the Saints really mortgaged their future when Drew Brees was still with the team to try to win then. They didn't win. He is now taking over a team that has a lot of dead cap. They have Derek Carr. Is Derek Carr going to stick around with the Saints? I feel that's probably unlikely. We'll see who Kellen Moore brings in to replace him. If there's anybody from the Eagles or, the Chargers or Cowboys backups that he really thought he had a good relationship with and could potentially play very well. If he'll pick any of them to come along with him to potentially, be the starter for New Orleans or at least compete for a starting job. There's also been reports that, speaking of Los Angeles Chargers, former head coach Brandon Staley, he's a very good defensive coordinator, wasn't a great head coach. He is potentially going to come with Kellen Moore to the Saints. I think that's great. Obviously, they worked in the opposite situation where Kellen Moore was the coordinator, Brandon Staley was the head coach in Los Angeles. Now it'll be reversed. I think that shows that they must be close if they're willing to be in a new dynamic like this. So ultimately, I do like the hire for the Saints. Again, the job itself right now is in a difficult spot, but if you can have an offensive coordinator who can get maybe the most out of certain players, maybe you can cover up on the fact that you don't have necessarily tons of assets in order to succeed there. So, congratulations to Saints fans. Congratulations to Kellen Moore being a head coach. What a huge deal and huge opportunity for him. And we will see how it ends up working out down in the bayou. Moving on to Chris's segment on the NHL. Here is Power Play. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Power Play. I'm joined, as always, by Chris Umiski. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Brian. How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Excited to talk some hockey. We're at the midway point of the season, or just about. And you were telling me before we started recording, there's some changes to the All-Star game this year. Can you explain how that's going to work?
Yeah, so instead of doing a like a traditional all-star game or like all-star tournament like they've done in the past, they're calling it the Four Nations Face-Off, where they're taking players from this is sort of the cool thing about the NHL is that they sort of pull players from around the world. So they can do like a Team Canada, Team Finland, Team Sweden, and Team USA.
So,
Featuring
will
all NHL players.
these teams will only be NHL players and all from these various places, right?
Yes.
Well, that's very fun. So, is this kind of playing into obviously next year? We got the Olympics. Is this kind of a preview almost?
Yes, and it's exciting because the NHL hasn't participated in the Olympics in a while. They keep saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go do it," but it just never happens, and it makes like Olympic hockey feel like it's missing something. So this will be exciting, and they're definitely like, "Yeah, we're all in. We're doing this Four Nations thing to promote that." So that'll be cool.
Well, give me your hot take right now. Who's winning this Four Nations tournament, Chris?
Ooh, let me see. Team USA's roster looks pretty stacked. So does Canada's, obviously. Really, the four countries that they have. There's the weakest country is probably going to be Finland, but I think it's going to be either Team USA or Team Canada that ends up taking it.
Well, that should definitely be fun. And do you think, maybe this goes well? This could be something we see in the future. Do you think this is kind of just a one-off in preparation of the Olympics?
I if I had to put money on it, I would say it's probably going to be a one-off. But if it goes really well, if it draws a crowd, if it gets people watching the game, because that's an issue the NHL is having too. Is the American market especially starting to dwindle, and they don't want to lose that. Like, oh, like maybe we can get people watching Team USA.
Yeah, I'd seen reports of that, and obviously it's a little off the beaten path, but some of the, because I was trying to figure out like, okay, well, why is this the case? And what a lot of people were saying is, and I don't know if you agree, the NHL makes it more difficult than it needs to be to watch the games. Is that accurate?
Yeah, admittedly, it's been a while since I've watched a full Bruins game for one reason or another. Whether it's my work schedule or just it being impossible to watch the game. Like you already know that like Nesson's not on YouTube TV anymore, which
Yep.
sucks. The Nesson mobile app is terrible when you try to use it. Uh, and the NHL's like blackout restrictions. You want to watch a game on ESPN or on Hulu or something. I can watch the Colorado Avalanche versus the San Jose Sharks, but I can't watch the Bruins and the Canadiens.
Yeah, listen, YouTube TV, if you're listening, this is on YouTube, obviously. Please work something out with Nesson. You haven't had it since I switched over to YouTube TV. I love YouTube TV for everything else. I can't watch Bruins games. I can't watch Red Sox games. It sucks.
Yep. Seconded.
Yeah, so figure it out. And I haven't tried the mobile app. Maybe I'll try it.
Don't
No,
don't. It's
don't
not
even
worth it.
bother. Okay,
It's not
fair
worth
enough.
it unless you want to break your phone.
Yeah. So I mean, when stuff like that happens, what are people supposed to do? They're gonna pirate it, right? Like,
Yep.
and that's just
No, we don't
again,
push the law here to watch.
not us, of course, but
No.
people generally. And then, how can you and, the NBA having a similar problem, very difficult to watch games, ratings going
This
down.
is a problem just across sports.
Yeah,
In the age of streaming, I should just be able to watch whatever game I want.
I agree. You should like, each team should have their own streaming service that you can just pay, like, a reasonable price just to watch your favorite team. But that's not the case, unfortunately.
And that's what like the Nesson mobile app was supposed to be. Like I could watch, like I could go visit Jack in Florida and I could watch the
Yeah.
Bruins there. But even then, it's like it's just getting like the app to work and having to rely on something like that is frustrating as a fan.
No, no doubt. So, well, anything else about the I know we got so off topic here, but anything else about the, new All-Star break that you wanted to talk about, or should
No,
we move on to
I'm
NBA?
excited. We got I guess for Bruins representation. Brad Marchand is on Team Canada. Um, let me see. Go to Team USA. Jeremy Swayman's on Team USA. So is Charlie McAvoy. Then let me see. Anybody on Team Finland? Nope, nobody's on Team Finland. Team Sweden. Thought we would have had maybe Anders Lindholm on there. Nope. Yeah, so we got representation on Team USA and Team Canada.
So it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be unique,
Yeah.
if nothing else. So,
Nope,
uh,
Elliot's on Team Sweden.
as you'll know if you're longtime viewers of this channel or if you're just from the New England area, each year there's a big important hockey tournament between the top schools here in Boston. It's called the Beanpot, and that concluded yesterday. How did that go?
So this was the tournament this year was particularly exciting because Boston schools are doing so well in the NCAA. Boston College, my team is ranked number one. BU is ranked number 9. So that was a very interesting final matchup with BC BU. They have a very classic rivalry anyway. And going into it, like everyone was like, "Oh, BC is finally going to take it." It's been a while since BC's got a bean pot, but BU upset them.
So that's pretty impressive right there. Obviously, as you said, they're rivals. Anything can happen in a rivalry matchup, especially teams that are familiar with each other and play each other every year, like in this tournament. But what do you credit with BU being able to, or I guess who do you credit with BU being able to pull this upset off?
Well, BU's got a hell of a goalie. I wish I could remember his name. I don't watch BU hockey enough to. But I would say that goaltending was what won them the game. Because BC had the puck so much more. They were getting more shots off, and BU I guess was landing more of their shots, which is how you win a hockey game. But if they hadn't had, I think he's a freshman too, their goalie. I'm gonna look up his name. Um, if they hadn't had him in, then they would have had trouble. Mikhail Yegorov.
That sounds like a hockey name for sure.
Mikhail Yegorov. He was actually drafted by the Devils last year.
All right. So yeah. How does that work in college? You get drafted, but you can play out your college career?
Yep, you can play out your college career because college level hockey is considered one of the developmental stages,
Mhm.
where like it all falls under the same governing body as the NHL does.
Right.
So everything's connected. You can finish off. There's nothing like, oh, you have to redshirt. You have to do
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're a player who's like 18 and you're like gonna go to the NHL immediately, probably you wouldn't do that. But I think it's good that you can, still play out your college career.
Yeah, a lot of the American players do that. Well, they'll play in college. Then a lot of the Canadian players, they won't play in college, but they'll join like junior leagues and things like that. Once they get drafted, it's interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. So congratulations, BU. Obviously, very fun, every year. Now Chris is not congratulating you, but maybe next year, Chris, for BC.
We can only hope. Go
Absolutely.
Eagles. It doesn't matter. They're gonna win the NCAA title anyway.
Right, that's the real important thing, of course. Well, anything else you want to touch on before we get on out of here for today?
Nope, I think that'll do it.
Awesome. Well, tell them where they can find you if they want to keep up with it.
So I am on Blue Sky. That's at Chris Uminski. I'm also, I guess, still on X sometimes. I'm actively trying to get myself kicked off of that at this point.
Fair
And
enough.
I'm on Facebook too. I'm in a band, Basics Plus. Follow us on Instagram. We have a show this Friday in Worcester at the Hotel Vernon.
Oh, very nice. So if you're in the area, go check that out. Buy Chris a drink. So what how do they support you other than going in person? You got Spotify,
Yeah, we got
YouTube.
Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, all that good stuff. Follow us on Instagram.
Awesome. So go follow Chris there. And yeah, other than that, Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you all in the next one. We're going to go from the NHL to the NBA with Ryan talking about trade deadline fallout in our segment at the buzzer. Everyone, welcome to At the Buzzer. I'm joined by Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
Brian, I'm doing as well can be expected. Football season just ended. College basketball's in full swing. Right, we got the Celtics rolling. So I mean, in the sports world, pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Wish the Super Bowl had been more entertaining. If you're someone who's really tired of the Chiefs, I'm sure it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
But we're fully on to basketball season now. Now my mind personally it just like shifts. It's like, all right, I'm in it now. I'm so ready. And I mean, last week was a good introduction to that with the trade deadline. And there was one trade that had you up in arms, that had you super upset, and it didn't go through. So tell us about that and how you feel about it not going through.
It didn't, and I might have been a little reactionary on it. Maybe it was like kind of like the delayed response to the Luka thing. Um, kind of how I tend to deal with things in life, right? Like something big
Right.
happens, it'd be like I'm fine, and then something pretty minor happens, and that's what like sets off the emotion. So it kind of makes
Mhm.
sense. But I think right that Mark Williams trade, it would have been really big for them. I do think like I don't think Dalton X was much at all to give up for him. Um, did they need that much offensively? I don't know. But right, it seemed kind of scary that they were able to do that and they needed a center. However, it turns out, they pretty much looked at him and were like, yeah, no, we can't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Sounds like something I'm like probably like looking at Bill Walton's x-rays in his like 30s, something like that. Um, so I think if you're the Lakers, it kind of stinks, but obviously you didn't want to take the risk on his injury. And like I said, I don't really know if he needed that much firepower. Like the way he had looked this year is like that's like he could maybe score more than 20 points a game down low. Do you need that much when you have Luka, LeBron, and then you got Reeves coming off the bench? I'm not I'm not entirely sure, and he's I think I compared him to I said this last week. I said he's kind of like a Rob Williams for people that don't know, but on offense, like all the upside has been shown on offense. Defense, there have definitely been flashes, and he's like huge and athletic, right? He jumps, but it hasn't really come through on the defensive end. So, but the Robert Williams comparison ended up being way more accurate than even I entailed as.
Yeah,
Basically,
that's a good point.
they looked at his physical and were like, "Oh fuck no," which if you're a Celtics fan, you know that people really loved Rob Williams, like to the point where like I think it would have been a even tougher goodbye, like had he not been just so injury riddled.
Yeah.
And it seems like Mark Williams, you never know with these things. He could beat the odds, but the Lakers understandably didn't want to take the chance even for Dalton Knecht in the pick. So it didn't go through. But last night, I believe we got our first Luka as a Laker.
Yeah. So, well, first I want to say how awkward must have been for Dalton Neck to come back. Be like,
Honestly,
sup, guys? That was pretty not chill that he tried to trade me, but whatever.
you think like Austin Reeves are on the bet? Like Austin Reeves is just like, bro, I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But yeah, we got our debut of Luka playing for the Lakers with LeBron. Got LeBron just, looking like he de-aged 10 years. I don't know if you saw like that, but he
Y
was
y
being shifty and making fall away jumpers. Like,
Well, I have some thoughts on that for sure, yeah.
yeah. So please, floor is yours on all this.
Well, I think one thing everyone talks about, like, the kind of conflict it could create when you have 2 guys who are so ball heavy, but I think what maybe isn't emphasized enough is, right, LeBron had LeBron had AD who, as good as he is not a play initiator, right? He's more of a defensive anchor. He's a guy, he can put up a lot of points, but he's a big that's going to play off someone else. So LeBron really hasn't had, I mean, there's really no right. We've talked about there's very few people like Luka that have his ability to initiate the offense. So that's going to take some of the load off LeBron in his old age, and he's going to be able to lock in on defense a little more, right? He's going to be able to do kind of like some more just like scoring things, like driving to the basket, being more physical. So I think that's going to be I think that could be a potential plus for having Luka next to LeBron, actually, is that we're going to see him being able to lock in on these ways that he wasn't able to when it was him and KD. And even like, you go way back like to his career, like when he played with like Kyrie. I mean, Kyrie just isn't Luka, right? He came in as like the guy to play off of Luka.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they're they're gonna be good. They're gonna be a pretty dynamic duo, I think. And I think there's like a bigger conversation too that I want to ask you about. Like, new Mavs ownership, I feel like really, dropped this ball here.
Probably.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, Dirk Nowitzki was at the Lakers game last night to watch Luka like play. Like, you've alienated your best player in franchise history. Like, that's
Yeah,
insane.
that was the thing. That was a weird thing. I don't know what the disconnect there. I'd have to kind of look up like any connection between all of them and what Derek's like thoughts were. But yeah, he's always been super embraced by the Mavericks. And my understanding of it was that um, he really liked Luca. Those two were very close.
Yeah, he must be
He
if
had got
he's going
he
to
had
see his premiere, right?
yeah, he more or less like christened him as well. He had like pretty much christened him as like the next Mavericks guy. I think they played chess together. I know that. And
Think they
uh,
played Overwatch together? I know Luka's a really big Overwatch player. Do you think he got
is
Dirk
he
to
really? Is
play?
he really?
Yeah,
Uh,
he's like a grandmaster level Overwatch player.
Oh, that's not that surprising.
It's
Yeah,
awesome. Love that.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, he's got. I mean, they have an AI of him in chess.com.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. But anyway, sorry I interrupted you.
no, you good. You good. But yeah, I'd have to see. I mean, is that a matter of, does that it doesn't look great, but like, does it mean that Dirk is down on the Mavs? Maybe not. Maybe he's just supporting Luca and he'll still be there for the Mavs. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. What are your thoughts on AD immediately getting hurt again and his debut
Um,
for the Mavs?
well, I think I told you I like giggled to myself when I saw that clip because it looked like a ghost, like punched him in the dick. Like that's straight up what it looked like. He was just like standing and just like grab his ball, like seemed to grab his crotch and like
It is a abductor, which is the groin injury. So maybe, not far off.
no, that's what it looked like. And I mean it's unfortunate. I don't really think you can do you know what it looks like in terms of how long, anything like that?
There haven't been reports about it. Jason Kidd didn't even do a press conference after the game yesterday. Like, there's turmoil in Dallas.
I think a lot of that is again like is it Jason Kidd being so upset that AD I'm sure he's not happy AD is injured. I would think it has more to do with the all of the turmoil in terms of how everyone is reacting to their decisions, right? And
Right.
you just don't want to, they just don't know how to confront it, right? Everyone is so upset, so up in arms. This was such a big deal. Um, yeah, it was handled pretty oddly, but yeah, I don't really know what to make of it. I don't think, I mean, has gotten hurt a lot. I don't think it's indicative of like this is going to be the whole time. He's always going to be super injured or anything like that. Like we just don't know enough yet, but it definitely like looked like it was an indicative omen of like what you guys fucked up. Like you really traded him for this 32-year-old guy who gets injured all the time and I think he's 31, but like is on like this, kind of weird tear this year where he hasn't gotten hurt and then he gets hurt and it's not even from contact. I mean, yeah, it's pretty, you don't want to say it this way because it's someone being injured, but right, it's like there's definitely some ironic, like dark comedy there to a degree. But yeah, I mean, I definitely don't see why the Mavs would ever have done what they've done. They've made arguments. You can see where they're coming from to a degree, right? It's like we get off of this guy, we don't have to sign him to a contract, and we get a player that is kind of specialized and focuses on what we think we're lacking and what we want to identify as like our type of team, and we think he's going to pair really well with the guys we have.
Right.
And then it's like too, you're not locked in for like, I guess the other argument would be you're not locked in because like Luka, right? That's like what until however long he wants to play. If you have him on the contract and you can't trade and you're not trading him, that your team is built around that. And for a very long time, you're always going to be somewhat competitive, to a degree, and you're going to want to be somewhat competitive. AD, I got to think 32 years old. He's probably got like what 4 or 5 more years, maybe, and then Kyrie's older as well, and you kind of can get off of them, and then you can rebuild. I guess that would be the other argument. I don't think it makes a lot of sense when you have someone of Luka's caliber, but I mean they've presented their concerns in regards to his care for his diet and all of that, which those are valid to a degree.
Yeah, no, for sure. So there's one trade that we somehow didn't cover in our hours of trade deadline.
I think we maybe did. Actually, I do want to. The one we didn't cover, or maybe you did and I misheard you. I heard you say Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown, but I don't remember you indicating that they were traded for Brandon Ingram. That was a kind of a weird big trade. I mean, we don't have to talk a bunch about that. The Raptors are just like the weirdest team in basketball now, which they always kind of have been. Even I think I hadn't even thought of it. But my friend was like, "Do you remember when they won the championship?" Like,
yeah, we were cool. I was there for half the season and they won a championship and he immediately left. That was weird.
Yeah, it was Kawhi. Then they had like Kyle Lowry when they've just always been kind of a weird team, but they get weirder with like him, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett. There's just not a real identity there. But anyways, we can talk about the other one, which is I believe you're going to say DeAndre Hunter to the Cavaliers. Yeah, so this was a trade people were really big on. I think it's probably the most relevant in terms of Eastern Conference, like what makes a team more competitive. The Cavs have been, this juggernaut all year, but we kind of saw them follow the Celtics, and there's kind of these, I think maybe like slight worries that it's like, all right, they're a bad matchup against the Celtics, and obviously the Celtics are way more experienced. However, when you look at what are the Celtics' strengths, and look at what the teams are, other teams in the East are trading for, right? The Bucks, I don't think it was enough, and we've talked about this player, but right, they go ahead and get a small, a big wing in big versatile wing in Kyle Kuzma, right? And then these guys get DeAndre Hunter, who are the best players in Boston, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? Jason Tatum, right? I'd have to look up his height. I feel like his weight always is listed way lighter than it is, but he's about 6'8". I know just because I just refreshed on him. DeAndre Hunter is 6'8", 225, right? So he's right around those guys' size. So at the very least, it's a big body that can hang around a little more with the Jays, right? Especially for a team, the Cavs, they've been very set at the guard and the big positions. It's just been the 3 spot has just been a disaster for them. And DeAndre Hunter's had his best season ever, right? He's like been a super six man, I believe, and he's averaging over 20 points a game. The thing with DeAndre Hunter to me though is I really think that from what I've seen, right, this is his best season. I don't think he's more than just like a bucket. Like I think he's right, he's big and you're like, man, you could really use him for defense. There's I also don't really see the playmaking kind of stuff. I'm not even sure if I'd want him in just how he's going to play offensively. I'm not even sure how much he would make sense to me playing in the starting lineup with them. So I do have some qualms about that, but I do think that yeah, it definitely, you got a type of player that you had a need for, and he is someone who is going to get you some extra points. We could talk about the Hawks perspective and what they traded, but right, it's really more important to talk about the Cavs here. So I would say I think ultimately it was a good trade, but I don't think it is gonna solve anything in lockstep. I think also DeAndre Hunter played his first game. Apparently the Cavs were pretty happy with it. I think he had like 12 points and went like 3 for 7 from the field. I mean, that's pretty unremarkable. Maybe had like a rebound. But I think honestly, even if he can just get like 15 points a game and play, play like be passable on defense, then yeah, he's gonna work as a starter. And if he can like kind of fall in step, what I think is more likely to happen is he will be able to get closer to like his 18, 19 points a game and probably won't change too much ultimately on his other habits. But it does give them another body, and they moved off Levert. I think ultimately it helps the Caps a bit, but I don't think it puts them over the edge for any crazy advantage, especially with their lack of like long-term playoff experience as a whole unit together.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Anything else you want to touch on before we get on out of here?
No, not really, honestly, bro.
All right, where can they find you online? Anything you want to promote? Floor is yours.
I'm a ghost. You cannot find
Ghost.
me
Yeah.
anywhere. I don't.
All right, fair enough. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for your time.
Brian, pleasure as always.
I'll see you all in the next one. Then we're back to close out the show with the messy divorce of Aaron Rodgers in the New York Jets. So Diana Rossini, she's been on top of the story the whole time. Obviously, Jay Glazer, he was the one to first report that Aaron Rodgers and the Jets would be parting ways. And now we have some more context to that. Diana Rossini said on her podcast, quote, I was told that when they had conversations with Aaron Rodgers about what the future would look like, if you're going to be part of this team, you're going to attend all training camp. You're not going to do Pat McAfee interviews anymore. He had a conversation with him. If you were to stay here, here's how we would want it to be. So this is me, Aaron Glenn, getting back in control. Close quote. So that is, of course, from her Scoop City podcast. That's probably the reason that Aaron Rodgers is not with the Jets anymore, right? He's a very free-spirited, confident in himself man, friends with Pat McAfee. The Pat McAfee segment with Aaron Rodgers has produced a lot of interesting, shall we say, situations. We got a lot more info on Aaron Rodgers as a person and as a player. And was all of that info stuff that we wanted to know? Maybe not, but it's from a entertainment perspective. I respect Pat McAfee for doing it. Granted, it's not like he's out there asking the hardest questions, but you let Aaron Rodgers speak freely for, was it like half hour, whatever, each week. You're going to get some interesting headlines. And I mean, that's where he announced that he was going to the Jets. That's, where he's just given a lot of like inside scoops. And again, Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers are good friends. So I would imagine that part of the prerequisite for Aaron Rodgers to be on a team is that he's going to ask to remain, involved with his appearances on Pat McAfee. And I do respect Aaron Glenn for being like, that's not what I want from a quarterback. I want someone bought in to here who's not causing distractions on a weekly basis. And I do kind of think it was like a I know if I draw this line in the sand for Aaron Rodgers, he will not agree to it. And then that's an easy way for us to end this situation. You know, Aaron Rodgers is just going to leave and I won't have to deal with him. And we can say it was like a mutual decision. So if you're a Jets fan, let me know your thoughts about this report that Aaron Rodgers was asked to not go on the Pat McAfee show anymore and how you think that affected Rodgers and the Jets, I guess, splitting up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Wicked Good Sports Podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe. We got all kinds of videos happening multiple times a week, and as well as our long form show. And then if you want more, that's not necessarily sports, check out our main channel. We get everything, which is nerd and pop culture news and essays, that kind of stuff. And our podcasting channel, Better Radio, for all the podcasts that don't have to do with sports. Until next time, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.